Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a pretty unique and, let's be honest, provocative perspective on artificial intelligence, and it comes from Andrew Tate. Okay, let's just dive right into this.
So Tate kicks things off with a really stark warning. He's basically suggesting that what most of us think of as the AI threat, well, we're completely missing the real danger. He believes we're all focused on the wrong thing, and the true risk is something far more insidious.
So, to really understand his argument, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. We'll follow his logic all the way from the problem he sees to the pretty wild consequences he predicts.
So Tate's whole argument starts by defining a completely different kind of AI threat, one that goes way beyond the sentient robots you and I see in the movies. His view is in such sharp contrast to what we usually picture. Pop culture has us imagining these cool, sentient robots, right? But Tate argues that the real danger is way more subtle. It's a quiet, creeping grid of facial recognition, digital control inside these so-called 15-minute cities, and a whole bunch of other systems that he believes are designed for one thing: social obedience.
Now, to explain how he views this threat, Tate uses this really simple analogy that honestly kind of reveals his entire mindset, what he calls the logic of absolute protection.
This analogy is so central to his worldview. What he's arguing is that a protector mindset doesn't mess around trying to find the one bad apple. Nope, if there's even a potential threat in the group, you avoid the entire group. It is a total zero-tolerance approach to risk.
And this logic isn't just some abstract idea for him. He applies this exact same all-or-nothing risk assessment to huge, complex societal issues. He draws a direct line from how he thinks about border control to how we should be implementing AI. So this logic then brings up a really critical question in his argument. Why does he believe society is so vulnerable to these threats in the first place? Well, he points to what he calls the decline of protectors.
According to Tate, society is at risk because a fundamental safeguard has been systematically taken apart. And that safeguard is what he calls the innate masculine responsibility to protect.
And he frames this as a deliberate strategy. To damage a society, he says, you first have to remove its protectors. And in his view, this is done by labeling their natural protective tendencies as toxic, which he argues basically neutralizes these men mentally instead of physically. The result of all this, in his view, is that men are now conditioned to just ignore problems and dangers. Because, acknowledging a threat means you have to be brave, and that's a responsibility he believes they've been taught to avoid. And that leaves society completely defenseless. So, with society's protectors neutralized, Tate predicts this creates a massive opening for a future of widespread control, a dystopian system that is powered by AI. He describes a future where AI isn't some robot you see walking down the street. No, it's an invisible grid that dictates every single aspect of your life. It's that camera in the corner, linked to your digital ID, controlling where you go, what you buy, and even if you're allowed to travel.
And as a specific example, he points right at the push for electric cars. He claims it has nothing to do with the environment and everything to do with control. See, unlike a gasoline car, an electric vehicle can be remotely shut down, which gives an external system complete authority over your movement. And finally, he brings all these consequences from this big societal level right down to the deeply personal, exploring what this all means for robots and relationships. He paints this really provocative and frankly degrading picture of the future. In his view, men who have been conditioned to be weak will not only accept AI companions, but they'll become completely subservient to them, losing any sense of their traditional role. This personal weakness, in his view, is the final piece of the puzzle. It's what allows for the silent acceptance of a dystopian future, that men will selfishly choose the immediate gratification of an obedient AI partner over the difficult responsibility of protecting humanity.
So look, Tate's perspective, it's obviously controversial, right? But what it does is connect the rise of AI directly to these really fundamental questions about gender, responsibility, and control. And it forces us to consider a pretty provocative question. As technology advances, how does it fundamentally challenge or maybe even threaten traditional societal roles?